For this you need some hole punch pliers, a marker, this is a blank shape, a blank circle for stamping, and you need a vise, a table vise that you can hook onto your table, and then a nylon ended hammer and a hammer. My whammer is the best. And then if you follow the earring tutorial, you would have already known how to make a tassel. So here's my tassel. Just follow all the instructions on the tassel earring and you'll have wrapped around all your threads and ready to cut off from the card, and you'll have had your wire in there as well. So this is to make a basic tassel, but it's exactly how you start with the necklace fringe as well. So get that fringe ready, but you're not going to bind it at the top like you did with the earrings. This time you're going to get your stamping blank. So this is just a brass stamping circle, and you mark the center where you're going to punch it. Then you get your hole punch pliers or a drill, and you create a hole at the center of the circular stamping blank, and you just push that in and then take that off. Mine's been overused, so sometimes it just doesn't discard, it doesn't, make a nice clean hole. I have to take the end off. But anyway, make a nice central hole. Now you would put your table vise onto your table. I can't do that with this, making this video. So screw that onto your table, place the circle into the vise at the halfway point, halfway through where that little hole is. So place it in there on your table and make sure it's secure, tighten it in there. And then hammer the end of that circle down onto the vise with the nylon head, that way you won't mark it. So you just flatten it down, and that means you've started folding that shape in half. Now you want to continue folding it a little bit more. So it's sort of open still. It's not completely sort of, squashed down, but just use your pliers, or again, you can, use your nylon head on the hammer on a steel block, but I find it easier to do with my pliers, and just squeeze it a little bit more closed. It'll be easier to work with later on. So just squash it down a bit so you've got sort of half a circle, and the hole is in the center, and that's how it should look at this point. So when you've got that ready, you're then going to take the wires at the end of the tassel and you're going to post those through from the center. So go into the center of that folded circle and push them through the hole so that they protrude at the top, and just pull it through, bring the tassel right the way through so that it sits as far in as you can get it to sit. So just pull it with your pliers so it can sit right in. So now when you've got it in there, you're going to spread the threads out a bit, because you want this sort of fan effect on the fringe necklace. So just with your fingers or whatever tool you have, you can use your comb at this point if you want, or I'm just going to use my pliers. So just fan out the sides. Don't worry about the middle at this point, because that will all come together at the end, but just pull out some threads on the sides so that you fill up the sides, and then get your nylon head to start hammering it down so the threads don't move anymore, and then use your steel head and then give it a good old bash. Turn it over, so do it on both sides, to flatten and squeeze and compact all those threads into that top half circle. Now I'm just going to texture it. You can do whatever you like with the top of these. So I'm going to use my texturing head on my whammer and the dapping head, and I'm just going to hammer to create a little bit of texture If you want, you could always get a stamping tool and stamp some designs or some letters or whatever, circles, anything you want can go on and be stamped on the metal. So now we're just going to make that fringe look a bit neater. Get your comb and just start combing out, and so there's no tangles, so there's no sort of messy ends. I mean, if you have a dog grooming comb, you know, like a sort of one of those metal combs, that they're quite good as well. So comb it out so you've got them sort of, as you know, a bit more even. And then, as you saw when I made the fringe earrings, I've made myself a little template out of cardboard, which I can use to cut around, so I can got a sort of even, you know, ends and length to my fringe. So I'm just going to hold that at you know, against the fringe. I'm just combing it out again, and then get my scissors, and then I'm going to cut around that contour that I've created out of cardboard, and that template just allows me to have an evenness to the length on each side so that it looks sort of regular. I mean, none of my pieces are regular because they're all handmade, but to the eye it's got at least a little bit more of an aesthetic shape. And you have to be a bit of a hairdresser here. You can, you know, go back and look at it and see if there's any longer threads that you've missed. So spend a bit more time than I'm doing on this, because it, you know, it does take a bit of time. And then to finish off, you're going to take one of your wires, 0.6 wires, and wrap it around the other. So one is going to be a stem. I'm going to take a little bit off here because I'm going to make a spiral out of this one to decorate the front of my fringe necklace. So I'm going to make a little circle with the tips of my round nose pliers, and then I'm going to curl the wire around that little circle, and that will give me a nice little decorative spiral. If you know my tutorials by now, you know I love making spirals on everything. It's one of my characteristic styles on all my jewellery. So I put a little spiral there, hammer that down with the planishing head, the steel head of the whammer, and that just gives me a tiny little decorative detail for the piece. I'm going to add a bead to the top just to give it, you know, one more. You could put a coloured bead, in fact, to match your fringe at this point, and then I'm going to make a wrapped loop. So using my round nose pliers, I'm going to wrap a loop, bring it round my pliers, and then take my chain nose pliers to wrap just under that loop or that link, and wrap it a couple of times to secure. And that way it's not an open link that can sort of come apart when you're wearing it. Cut off the end of the wire and make sure that there's no sticky out ends, anything that can catch when you're wearing it. So that's really how I make those fringes. And of course you can make these into earrings as well. So it can be earrings or a necklace or on a handbag charm. So I'm just going to take, this is a ready-made chain. I'm trying to make it simple so you can just buy these ready-made bits. So ready-made chain, I'm just going to take the end off because I don't like the eye of the chain on this. It's sort of too small. And I'm going to feed that through my top link of my necklace, and I'm going to remake the eye of the necklace so that it's slightly larger and easier. So I'm going to, working from my wire spool, I'm going to create a big loop, a wrap loop again, straighten out the stem and wrap that excess wire just under the link to create that wrapped link. And you could also add a bead on this one just to add a bit more colour. And you know, every time you make these things or you get more practice, you'll find that you'll adapt them and make them your own. So I'm just going to cut that off the spool. So I've got my wrapped loop or my eye of my fastener there. Give that a hammer because you want to work hard in it. You don't want to have that sort of soft and pliable. So I'm just hammering the very end, but not hammering where I've wrapped it because that will weaken it. So just hammered the end. So there you could put a bead, add a bead before you make your next link. But just to move things on, I'm just going to create another smaller wrap link ready to put onto the end of my chain. And there we go, we just feed it on, hold the link, and then get another pair of pliers in your other hand, and then you can wrap. So I've got 2 chain nose pliers here, and I'm just going to wrap that little end around there to make sure it's completely secure, so that fastener can't come off, can't be lost or broken, and it's nice and fixed at the end of my necklace. And that's how simple it is. So you can see it can't fall off, and it will be nice on a chain for a handbag charm as well. And if it needs combing again, just get your comb and make sure your tassel is nice and even, and it might need another haircut. It depends. You'll have to look at it again. But it's as simple as that to make these fringe, could be earrings, could be necklace, could be charms, could be anything you want to decorate. And they're such fun to do with all sorts of threads and cords that you have at home. And there's my complete set of jewellery that will go with any pink or purple outfit. I hope you've enjoyed watching.